All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're basically reverse engineering Chapter 12 of your Form 4 biology textbook. But instead of just dryly reading theory, we're actually going to use the 2022 SPM Trial Papers marking scheme as our master key. We want to see exactly what the examiners are looking for.
So here's our game plan. We'll hit the nervous system, check out neurons and synapses, move into the endocrine system, deep dive into the pancreas and blood sugar, and finally face off the nervous versus endocrine systems.
Section 1. The nervous system. Command and control.
Now, the absolute core of all this is a concept called coordination. It's basically your body's way of detecting a stimulus from the outside world, or inside for that matter, and firing off the exact right response to keep you alive. It is literally the ultimate command and control setup, ensuring your whole body acts as one synchronized machine.
And the network pulling this off is split right down the middle into two parts. First up is the central nervous system, or CNS. That's your brain and spinal cord, the main processing hub. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. Think of the PNS as the wiring of your house. You've got 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. They branch out everywhere, hooking up your sensory receptors and effectors back to that central hub.
It's super interesting how our bodily actions are divided up here. On one hand, you have voluntary actions. These are the things you actually decide to do, like choosing to walk or waving your hand. That's your cerebral cortex talking to your skeletal muscles. But then, on the flip side, there are involuntary actions. These are running totally on autopilot. We're talking heartbeat, digestion, things controlled behind the scenes by your medulla oblongata or hypothalamus, using smooth and cardiac muscles.
So, let's look at question 10A from the marking scheme. To bag those 2 marks, you just need to spot that System X controls the voluntary stuff and System Y handles the involuntary stuff, like blood vessel contraction. Honestly, it's just plugging the textbook definition straight into the exam. Easy points.
Moving to Section 2. Neurons and synapses, signal transmission.
Okay, so this whole system runs on 3 highly specialized cells. Sensory neurons are the scouts. They pick up signals from receptors and rush them to the CNS. Then relay neurons step in. They're the middlemen processing things inside the brain or spinal cord. And finally, the motor neurons grab those processed impulses and blast them out to the effectors, like your muscles or glands, to actually make the physical response happen.
But here's the crazy part. These neurons, they don't actually touch. There's a tiny physical gap between them called a synapse. And since an electrical impulse can't just jump over empty space, it has to morph into a chemical signal. So neurotransmitters, like acetylcholine, spill out of synaptic vesicles, flute across the gap, and spark a new electrical impulse in the next neuron. It's like a microscopic, high-speed biological relay race.
All right, Section 3, the endocrine system, chemical coordination. Now we're pivoting from electrical wiring to the endocrine system, which is all about ductless glands. The absolute boss here is the pituitary gland. It sits right at the base of your brain and calls the shots for the other glands, like the thyroid, adrenals, and pancreas. And instead of zapping electrical impulses, these glands just dump chemical messengers, hormones, straight into your bloodstream to manage your body's long-term projects.
Which brings us to Section 4, pancreas and blood sugar. Homeostasis.
To really get how the pancreas works, we have to talk about homeostasis. Basically, this is your body constantly tweaking its internal environment to keep physical and chemical factors perfectly balanced. Keeping everything in that Goldilocks zone so your cells can do their jobs without getting damaged. The pancreas is basically a master of homeostasis when it comes to blood sugar. Think of its 2 main hormones, insulin and glucagon, as the pedals in a car. When your blood sugar spikes, beta cells hit the brakes by secreting insulin, which packs away excess glucose as stored glycogen. But if your blood sugar tanks, alpha cells slam the accelerator, pumping out glucagon to turn that stored glycogen right back into usable glucose.
Okay, let's see how they test this. Look at question 10B from the trial paper. They want to know what happens to a patient's blood sugar if part of their pancreas is removed. This is a massive 8-mark question, guys, so we need a really tight logical chain of events.
And honestly, the biological cascade practically writes the answer for you. Step 1, less pancreas means less insulin is produced. Step 2, because of that, less excess glucose gets converted into glycogen. Step 3, with nowhere to go, blood glucose levels shoot up way above normal. And Step 4, that chronic high blood sugar leads to diabetes mellitus. Boom! That is 4 solid marks just for following the logic.
To snatch up the rest of the marks for 10B, you just list the classic symptoms of diabetes mellitus. frequent thirst, frequent hunger, constant urination, fatigue, and sudden weight loss. Oh, and totally cool side note from the marking scheme, you could also argue this from the glucagon side. You could say less glucagon means less glycogen turning back to glucose, causing hypoglycemia. As long as you clearly explain the biological pathway, you get the points.
And finally, Section 5, Nervous vs. Endocrine Systems, the Big 10 mark comparison.
Let's crack open the marking scheme for 10C to see exactly what examiners want here. Quick pro tip, whenever an exam asks you to compare something, you absolutely must give them both similarities and differences to max out your score.
Always grab the easy marks first with the similarities. Both systems have the exact same end goal. They detect a stimulus and trigger a response. They both rely on targeting specific tissues or organs to get it done. And at the end of the day, they both exist to regulate your body activities and keep that vital homeostasis in check.
Now, for the rest of your 10 marks, you want to build a mental matrix of their differences. Structurally, endocrine is all ductless glands, while the nervous system is this massive web of neurons. Signals, endocrine uses chemical hormones, nervous uses electrical impulses. For pathways, hormones surf the bloodstream, but impulses travel strictly down nerve cells. Endocrine effects are usually long and prolonged, whereas nervous reactions are short, sharp, and quick. And finally, hormones tend to hit several organs at once, while a nerve impulse is highly targeted to one specific effector.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a kind of mind-bending thought. We know scientists are out there struggling to build bio-artificial kidneys, right? Well, just imagine the sheer, breathtaking complexity required to build a bio-artificial pancreas, something that perfectly balances your blood sugar minute by minute without you even noticing. It really makes you appreciate all this textbook theory when you realize the absolute biological marvel you're carrying around inside you right now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.